Ciao Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile, and I have to be honest, it's weird waking up, Alistair McKenzie, and looking at the ranking of the Europe League. And with one game missing, Alistair, we're still top of the table, number one. And I'm not very good in math, but it looks like to not finish top team in this Europe League group, we have to lose like 4-0, and the other team, and who is it? Eintracht has to win like 4-0. So it's looks like it's going to be very complicated, right?
Yeah, it's slightly irritating that because we have basically won the group, but
Yeah.
we can't actually say that yet because there is that very small kind of window of things that could happen in order to stop that. But yeah, I mean, honestly, this European transformation of Lazio continues to amaze me every Thursday that it happens. This looked like it could be one of the most difficult games for Lazio from the moment the draw came out, really.
Yep.
Because Sociedad are a serious team who've been Champions League team relatively recently and good players in their squad, obviously competing in a top league. And it was over within half an hour, 40 minutes or so. So who would have expected this would be the game where Baroni feels confident enough to play a Primavera player because it was completely finished?
Well, it's true to be told, we didn't have that many options on the bench, right? We were really in emergency mode again, and Alistair, this tells you a lot. I mean, uh, Guendouzi played more than half of the game as left back, so this tells you the crisis we were facing. But still, without any central defender available on the bench and so on, we won this game comfortably. And as you were mentioning, this Real Sociedad, it's a good team. I mean, in the Spanish league, they are one of the best defense. They don't score a lot of goals, but they don't concede them a lot. And we scored 3 goals against them. And like just last Sunday, an incredible start, right? We scored after 4 minutes. So
in almost exactly the same way.
yeah,
Set piece, centre back. Unfortunately, not big Sami Gigot this time, but
he was
Mario Gila with an absolute laser finish. I'm surprised the net didn't get ripped off the goal with that the force he hit that with. And yeah, that's becoming, I hope, as a bit of a feature of this team, a bit of a trait that they're getting these early goals, and also that they are able to threaten from set pieces in a way that I think has kept taking us by surprise all season, because we've spent so many years kind of lamenting Luis Alberto shooting from corners and all the rest of it. So yeah, fast start. I thought some really good individual performances. I think once you've got to the end of this game, it's easy to look at it and be like, it was a training match. But you really have to zone in, I guess, on the start of the game in order to interpret what went so well. And I think individually, there were some really good performances there. I thought Tati was good. I thought Isaacson had his best game for quite a long time. And, drew the red card as well. He must be so annoying to play against, because he does that thing where he'll keep the ball really close to his feet and he'll just wait for you to commit to the tackle, and then he just knocks it past you and wins the foul, wins the yellow card, whatever it is. So yeah, I think considering the bench was a joke. I mean, there was nobody on it basically apart from Noslin and Pedro. So all things considered, I mean, it's just unbelievably good night.
Alistair, can we say something? I mean, this is going to be the 8th year of Lazio Lounge. A long time has passed. And in this 8th year, we said this thing time and time again. We were really upset seeing this team underplay this competition. We saw better squad, because let's be honest, we had much better squad than this failing to compete in this competition. We
Yeah.
had the best Milinkovic Savic, we had Ciro Immobile top scoring, and still we were underperforming in this competition. This year, finally, we took it seriously. And even if we had Noslin getting red cards, we had, players like Chauna, who is not playing at the best level. We cannot compare him to Felipe Anderson, etc. We are top of the table. Finally, this team is taking seriously this competition. And it's important. I mean, as we mention often, we are not Real Madrid that we won, 13 Champions League and Europe League is a joke for us. No, this is a massive competition. So it's really positive to see this team, even in a game like yesterday, that we could say, we just need a draw. We need 1 point in the last two games to go through. No, we played that game yesterday as it was a much needed win game, and we did. This is such a game changer compared to the past that it's so nice to see, right?
Yeah, and it's something a lot of the players talk about after these games is the mentality. And I think it was Akanji last night who was the one doing it. And the approach to, that there is no difference, whether it's Coppa Italia, whether it's Serie A, whether it's Europa League. We want to win every game. We want to win in it, playing our way. I think it's really impressive that Baroni's managed to stamp that on this team. But I also think it's a bit of a... It puts the previous teams in a bit of a bad light as well, because it's also an admission that they didn't take it seriously. I mean, we could tell that from the performances and the selection and the rest of it. But I do wonder how much things have changed with Atalanta winning it last year. For teams like Lazio can see that and go, well, if they can do it, why can't we? And you can see that there are so many benefits to doing well in the group stage now as well, because top spot, well, a top 8 spot, but it means you're guaranteed to have a quieter February as well, because we get two less games to worry about. So February we can actually just focus on Serie A and the quarterfinal of the Cup. And the seeding obviously will mean we should hopefully get a kinder draw in the next round, which would take us one step closer to the quarterfinals. Once you're in a quarterfinal situation, it is serious. You have to go for it. And we've made it to the quarterfinals, maybe twice in the last 15 years or something. So I'm really encouraged by their attitude, the way they're taking on this competition. But I do think that the big question is going to be, in that business end, can they keep this up? Because those questions will start being asked a bit more. What's the priority? Is it Champions League qualification? Is it going on the Europa League run? Once we're into March, April, things are getting really tight in the Serie A. If you've got a game against Juventus in the weekend, but you've got a quarterfinal 3 days before, that I think we are going to keep having this conversation as the season goes on.
Well, I think Baroni will have to rotate the team, right? There's going to be a team playing in the Europe League and another one playing in the Serie A, because you cannot do it without it, right? Then probably if we go maybe in the semifinal, then he's going to focus on the Europe League and so on, things like that. But I think, the most important thing, the most encouraging thing is that we rotated in this group stage. It's not that we played our best team. Chauna played a lot of games. He scored the opening goal against Ajax. That was probably the most challenging game we faced this season in the Europe League.
Yeah.
Pedro, let's not forget, he's top scorer of the team in Europe League, and he's not considered a starter, right? So the positive thing is that even rotating the players, we succeed. We had a terrific performance. So that's encouraging, right?
Yeah, and that's been such a strength of his all season long. And like I've said a few times, I think it seems obvious. The more game time you're giving to all these guys, the better they're likely to play.
Yeah.
Because they'll have that sharpness. They won't necessarily need that time to get into a game. Whereas even I felt for guys like Tomo Basic in the past, okay, it's easy to look at it now and say Basic was never cut out to be a starting Lazio midfielder, but he also really had a tough time trying to prove that he could, because he was never playing, and that midfield never changed really. And so then you're thrown in for a European game and you barely played with the team, and becomes difficult. So the rotation has been essential, I think, to this success. Clearly, we would like more options for that rotation, because a lot of what's been successful has been at the attacking end of the pitch, like you're saying with Pedro, Nozla, and Chauna being able to come in. But and Deli Bashiru's settled quite nicely now. But yeah, I mean, look at that bench last night, and you can't tell me that we're fine for the rest of the season. Like you say, Guendouzi having to spend half of the game at right back, it's just mad. And it's exactly the kind of game you would like to give Rovella or Guendouzi some time out. And we did have Deli Bashiru there, so on the bench. So you're thinking maybe they can get some rest in the second half of this game. But Tavares' injury stopped that from being able to happen, because not only are these guys evidently so important as the central midfielders in the team, but they're the first choice to fill in other positions in the team as well. So
yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't expect to see Rovella Guendouzi playing there. I was expecting maybe Dele Bashiru to slide and play in that position. I think physically he's more suited. So definitely great performance, but the injury of Nuno Tavares is definitely a huge question mark. We don't know when Patrick is going to be back. Yesterday, we didn't have any defender on the bench, which is alarming. Obviously, Gigot and Pellegrini will be back, but as we mentioned on this podcast a lot of time, Gigot is a huge question mark, because he gets a yellow card in every single game he plays. So this means he's going to be suspended a lot going forward. So we didn't talk about transfer market, but probably we need someone there as well, because Hila and Romagnoli had to play yesterday. We didn't have any option. And going forward, this is not going to be possible, right? We need to rotate even there.
But even Tavares, because Tavares against Verona had some physical issue. Do you remember? And then he carried on, and it looked at the time like, oh, should they be careful with that? But then he seemed to kind of stretch it out, or whatever it was. And I don't know if it was the same issue. I don't think we've had an update yet on Tavares's fitness. But that's probably linked to this as well, of how much cover can you have for him, really. So it is problematic, because I think without the depth, the injuries become more serious, and the suspensions become more costly as well. And yeah, you're right. With Gigot, it's obviously a part of his game, the aggression, let's say, but you can't take that away from him, because I think you need to let him use his weapons, and that is clearly the way he likes to play. But it's frustrating looking at day after day almost all these players that Lazio have been linked with, and this is why I try not to get involved with the Mercato stuff. To be honest, I just hate it, because it's the same for years and years, where everyone's convinced, so Lazio are getting this player, that player. They don't do anything. They maybe, argue about a price or a formula of the deal for weeks, and then he goes somewhere else. And we've just seen this yesterday, even with what's his name from Chelsea, the
Casadei.
No, the other guy.
Vega.
Yeah, and now he seems to be off, not just off, but off to Juve. So like you joining a rival team, Casadei almost inevitably will end up at Torino. So okay, maybe not a direct rival for European spots, but another Serie A team. And Falorunccio has gone to Fiorentina, another rival. So it's not even just that they're not getting these guys that everyone's talking about, but they're losing them to other teams around us in Serie A, are being strengthened by them. And you need speed and organization in January to get anything done. And Lazio are lacking those things, it seems.
Yeah. To be honest, I think Lazio need not only a central back, midfielder, but probably even a center back, as we are struggling to have players available. We forgot to mention that Nuno Tavares finally made an assist and then got injured. I was just celebrating, hey, he made an assist, and then he was subbed due to injury. Now Baroni said crossing finger, he stopped before it could get serious. But let's not forget that Sunday, there's a huge match for us. Lazio Fiorentina. They are struggling, but if we can beat them on Sunday, it would be a massive boost for our Champions League hope, Alasdair. So we we have to think who's going to play on Sunday. Isai is going to be back. Pellegrini is going to be back. I don't think Nuno Tavares is going to be back. Vecino is not going to be available, I think. So this was a very busy and important week for us. It's true that Baroni didn't have that many options yesterday, but Sunday is going to be very important for us, right?
Yeah, it will. And the Conference League has already wrapped up because they're sensibly only play 6 games in that competition, which means that Fiorentina haven't had the midweek European match as well. But it's at home, which is nice, back-to-back home games. And yeah, they're in a sticky situation at the moment, Fiorentina. They're kind of, I saw Robin Gosens saying that they're basically undoing all the hard work from the start of the season because their form has been just dreadful recently. But look, there's a reason they had that form in the first place. They do have a good team there, dangerous players, and coming and knocking over Lazio would be the best way for them to get back up and try and revive their season a bit. So it's a really dangerous game. Yeah, but I'm encouraged by the recent performances, to be honest, with Lazio. I think things are looking pretty good. In the Europa League, the full-time whistle goes and Mario Gila immediately says, we want to win the Europa League. And I love that kind of ambition, I respect it. He's not hiding away from that. That's how he sees it. That's his ambition. And with the new format this year, Vittorio, you don't have the teams dropping in from the Champions League anymore that you have to worry about. And so it does mean if you finish number 1, you are the best team in that tournament from the games so far. And I don't know, if you look at that table, I don't see why they can't set that as a goal, because I don't know, I'm looking at it and like, okay, there's some big names, but Man United, my God, that is not a serious team this season. Spurs, likewise, copy and paste.
Even worse, I think Spurs. Yeah, terrible this season.
And then, the likes of Frankfurt and Athletic and Galatasaray, Lyon, these teams, good teams with good players. But again, same kind of level as Lazio. So I don't think there's anything to be that afraid of.
No,
it seems like Ajax, Porto, we're kind of used to playing these teams recently and beating them.
Porto is pretty much out, Alasdair. If I'm not wrong, they need a miracle to get qualified, right?
No, they're only 1 point outside the qualification spot, so they can still get in. But
they have to win and hope that the other teams don't win. So the thing, Alasdair, I think in this type of competition is how you arrive to this game that are gonna be game changers, right? If you arrive to the quarterfinals with 5 starters missing for a club like Lazio, that's going to be a massive issue. If you arrive, with Tati Castellano that scores and back heels, etc., that's a different type of game, right? Confidence, injury are going to be very important for this competition, for Lazio and for all the other games, obviously, all the other teams. And then again, you were mentioning that at a certain point, you will have to decide, well, it could be even the other way around. Maybe you're playing against Manchester United and they are back on form in the league. They could choose to focus on the Premier League rather than the Europa League. So, I agree with what you're saying. Lazio can win this competition. Yes, absolutely. But there's so many variables that you have to consider that it's not easy. So it depends on how we arrive to this game. Obviously, transfer market would be really important to sign players. Obviously, it would be good to have Vecino back, Patrick back, etc. But at the end of the day, it's how your team arrive form-wise to this game. But talking about form, Castellano scoring in Europe League, that's a good sign. That was a nice goal. The assist was unbelievable. I thought, well, that was a great assist, but it was good to see Tati scoring again.
Yeah, I saw this morning it was his first goal in 33 days or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a couple of criticisms of his finishing in recent weeks. So yeah, he's up to double figures now for the season. So he is having a good season. You know, he's chipping away, and between him and Dia, I do feel we have a strike force that can take us far. Because you know the statistics around Lazio when those two are playing together and when they're not are amazing. I mean, I saw this morning 9 wins in 11 games when both are starting. 9 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat, and I can't remember off the top of my head I think it was 4 wins, 2 draws, and 5 defeats without them. So there's a huge discrepancy by the way this Lazio team play with and without them. And that's not only about the danger that they pose, the goals that they're providing as the top 2 scorers, but after the game last night, I was watching on Sky, and they did a kind of analysis of the defensive work they were doing and the way that Baroni had set them up to kind of shut down Sociedad's build-up game. And it was quite interesting, showing the pressure that Castellanos would put on the centre-back who wants to, you know, start the move, and then the way that Dia kind of put a shield in front of their playmaker in midfield to stop them finding their first option. And it just put them under so much difficulty straight away because they were forced to go long. And I think in terms of that pressing game that Baroni's trying to implement, those two seem to have a great rapport around it. And I think it was a great example. One of the things we spoke about in our Patreon Q&A yesterday was we got asked about whether they should consider switching roles, and we basically both said no. And I think last night was a great example of why, actually.
Yeah, good reminder to everybody that is listening us. We do every month from January, from the new year, monthly Q&A only for patrons. So if you want to join us in this Q&A, ask questions, a membership starts at just $2 a month. So if you want to support our work, you know how to do it. In the second half, when Pedro came in, Dia switched to number 9 while Pedro was playing trequartista. I think it's very important to have Pedro back. He's vital, I think, in this Europa League. His experience is very important. Do you think playing number 9, Dia lost a little bit of his playmaking like he did in the first half?
Yeah, I mean, like I said right at the start, though, it's kind of hard to do any real analysis of the second half of this game because it was so clearly over, and it was like a training, you know, a training match. So I find it hard to take anything too positively or negatively about anything that happened, really. I mean, I guess the most interesting thing for me was seeing Balde come on. But beyond that, I don't think we can take a huge amount from the second half of this game. It was amazing. We lost the second half of this game.
Yeah, that's incredible. Alasdair, last week, our sport director said that there is no Primavera suited to play in the first squad. And less than 7 days later, Balde, a Primavera guy, make his debut in the Europa League. So what's going on? And for people who aren't aware, Balde is the little brother of Keita. Everybody remembers Keita, who is without a squad at the moment. He's a freelancer. He's a free agent, sorry. So maybe we should bring back Keita. And what do you think about this little brother?
Yeah, I was very curious to see what kind of impact he could have on a game like that, because as an attacking player, you're going to get touches and you're going to get more space in a match. I know Sociedad were basically just defending deep. So I guess there are two things I would say. The overall, I thought he looked all right. I mean, I've seen and heard some criticisms of him, but I think it's a bit harsh. It's his first 15 minutes in senior football.
Probably his last. as
Well,
well.
he didn't look out of place there, though. I think he came on and looked confident. He wanted to get on the ball. He was knitting together some decent passing moves. You could. I think it's the thing that can happen quite often is that players come on and you just don't see them. They can be really quiet and stay out of the game a bit more, or be a bit nervous about imposing themselves. But the thing that was happening last night was that the entire stadium was cheering every time he touched the ball, which made you realize how much he was touching the ball. He was wanting it a lot, and I like that confidence. But the goal conceded, clearly he didn't cover himself in glory tracking his runner, and I don't know if that's just laziness or a lack of concentration, or if it's because he's not used to playing on the left wing. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but he usually plays as a number 9, doesn't he?
He's more than a winger, to be honest. He can move around there, but I mean, this.
You weren't impressed though.
No, I mean, probably he's not our best player in the Primavera. Probably he's the most ready. He's the oldest we have in the squad after Diego Gonzalez left. But you know, I always said I want to see Bordoni if I have to pick a player from the Primavera. He's probably the most interesting player we have. Balde, it's an interesting player to see, but he doesn't defend that well. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm happy that someone came in. I thought Zaza could have an option, could have some playtime as well, but we finished the thanks to Tavares, the substitution. So yeah, I mean, let's be honest, I don't see he's going to have a bright future. I hope for him, I mean, obviously, but I don't see him playing in Serie A or Serie B going forward.
Yeah, well, that's nice positivity.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it did. Yeah, I guess the one thing that was slightly strange is that if this was the game we were going to give a Primavera guy a chance, why was it another forward? You know, maybe try a midfielder or a defender, which are the positions we're kind of short in at the moment. But anyway, it was a good night all round on that front. I guess the one negative of the night was the stuff that was happening off the pitch the previous evening. And yeah, I don't know, Vitor. I don't really know what to say about that kind of stuff anymore, but it is immensely frustrating, especially if the fans are upset that they're not being allowed to travel to away games, and then away fans come here and get attacked. Then what do you expect? I mean, and nobody wants that in football anyway, because everyone loves away games. It's a great thing to be involved in if you get a chance to do it. And if you're just sitting in a bar and a bunch of people attack you, then what the hell is this? I mean, yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it's very frustrating after all happens to Lazio fan. And the worst thing, if this is get confirmed, is that we supported Roma fans attacking Real Sociedad fans, because last year in the away game Roma played, they've been attacked by the Spanish fans. So they got the revenge and we helped them, which is crazy. So we don't need this publicity. And the worst thing, I don't know if from the TV everybody could notice, but the Curva Nord stopped chanting because it looks like, I didn't get any confirmation about that some ultras that was involved in the fight with the night before got arrested, and so protesting for this episode, they stopped chanting for all the game, which is crazy, to be honest with you.
If you assault someone, you get arrested. Yeah.
It shouldn't be a surprise, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's crazy.
And especially, you shouldn't be annoyed by that, right? Oh, why did they arrest? Well, you know.
You should be more worried if people start not getting punished for assaulting people randomly on the street. Yeah, I mean, I hope they're all okay. The guys, I know there were quite a few injuries reported and some people ending up in hospital and so on. So I really hope that they're all okay and recover, because yeah, it's just a horrible thing to happen when it's supposed to be a really special away trip, and you know it's hard to understand for the rest of us. So yeah, that was certainly the negative note of this match. But yeah, on the pitch, wonderful. And if we can back it up against Fiorentina, even better.
Yeah, Alasdair, before we wrap it up, talking about away games, etc., I know there are a lot of Lazio fans that are listening to our podcast that want to go to watch a Lazio game in Rome. So, I mean, if you need any help, you know where to find us. If you support our channel, we have a private chat on Patreon. We are, well, Alasdair not that much, but I'm ready to help if you want to get to a Lazio game. I know people are focusing on the next derby. I think it's in April, but there are a lot of games at the Stadio Olimpico. And if you want to come and watch the game with us, just contact us. We usually meet at Ponte Milvio before the game, so you get a little bit of the atmosphere, etc. If there's a lot of people coming for the derby, maybe we can organize a night out before the game like we did last year. So, yeah, get in touch with us if you're planning to come to Rome and watch a Lazio game. I usually go to every game, Alice doesn't, but, you know, we can organize a Lazio Lounge dinner in Rome if you come. It would be nice, right?
You've just chosen the day after, like, one of the very few games I've not been to, to say that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always nice to create this community. We should also take the opportunity to give a shout out. We've got a couple of new Patreon subscribers this week, Sam Zimbabwe and Jonathan Sexsmith. So thank you to them for joining up. And I'll reiterate again, private chat room with other Laziali, ad-free versions of every podcast, and the Q&A episode once a month. The first one came out yesterday. We talked about, what did we talk about?
Everything.
January Mercato, the Baroni's long-term plan with the team, Dia and Tati's positioning. We gave our all-time Lazio 11s, all sorts of stuff. So, you know, you don't have to pay a lot to be a member. You can pay as little as $2 a month if you want. And it's obviously a way of kind of supporting us with what we're doing as well. So thank you to those guys who've signed up. And if you haven't yet,
think about it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alasdair, for joining me. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this podcast. Please rate and review the podcast, and we'll be back after Lazio Fiorentina. Take care, guys.
Cheers.